So here we go. Scuba Obsessed, the weekly podcast. We talk about all things scuba diving, from cool new gear, places to dive, and scuba news. Scuba Obsessed episode 548 is recorded live September 1st, 2022. Welcome back to Scuba Obsessed. I'm Darren Gilson, coming to you from the southwest side of the great state of Michigan, where somehow we've got a long weekend. You like how time morphs that way? Joining me this week, we have Mac, the dive mentor. How you doing today, Mac?
I'm doing very well. I'm still trying to figure out where summer went.
It's gone. It never even got here. I can't say I did one summer thing this summer. No picnic, no diving, no swimming at the beach, no boat rides. I did go to the fair, which is a summer thing, at least here. That's when our fair is.
You did eat corn dogs.
I did eat corn dogs, but I mean, the occupational hazard. I eat less each year. This is probably the least number of corn dogs I have. I have more in my freezer than I ate all year. With the kids being out of town this year, my wife wanted them so we could freeze them. I've heard if you put them in an air fryer that they're not too bad, but it's hard to beat them fresh. Oh, gosh, this is late. This is late for us recording. We're almost an hour behind. But that was the penalty you get for partaking of the meal through the drive-through window. Yeah, it was the request for tonight. And when I heard the request, I realized it was going to delay things a tad bit, which it has been. But you're just kind of resigned to it. I don't even get mad. I just like, what it is. Now, I drove the truck tonight. If I drive the car, what I do is every time I move forward, I shut the engine off. In the truck, I don't. I will put it in park.
So you had a real big line?
Normally, any other pre-pandemic, that line would have been 5-10 minute line. Because you've got the line there, you've got from the window to the order, which will hold between 4 or 5 vehicles, depending on how big they are. But then from the ordering screen out around to the other side, that only had 2 or 3. And that's a short line for that particular restaurant. But after pandemic, it's like you move in waves. So there was a while when I pulled up, we didn't move for 10 minutes. Then it'll be 2 or 3 real quick right together. And then it'll be another 10 minutes. So that's what it goes. It took over 30 minutes to get through with what in a worst case would be 10 minutes. And that's a curve for being in the town that we're in. A big city, this would be, it'd be 3 minutes, but yeah.
It's pretty much that way all through most of the drive-thrus.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I was talking about this in a little squirrel moment before we even get to squirrel moments. But I don't think I've talked about this in the show, but we have hired people, right out of college, their first job. They're there a month or 2 months. And then they quit for another job. And you're like, wait, you haven't even done anything yet. I mean, you're like entry level beginning for that position that we hired you for. And we pay proportional to the area. So that particular area it's fairly rural. But the guy, and his family had worked for the company for years. So it's like he knew the company. But he got a job offer from Australia to work remote. That was a significant raise rate increase over what we were paying. So I think that's what's going on. And you see a lot of articles, people talk about young people won't go into work. They only work remote. Well, what's happened is some of these jobs that used to require being in the office, but if you were in San Francisco or New York or Chicago, those pay a lot. But they can hire somebody in rural Missouri, pay them twice what they can get anywhere else in that small town and still be cheaper than what they were paying. So that's what we're seeing in the economy right now, is that you're seeing the flattening. You're seeing those large cities who we've always looked and go, how do they do it? Well, they can't, or they, it's because competition. There was a false belief that you had to be in that city for that job. And I always wondered, when is one of those just going to pick a rural area? But the reason why many of them didn't go to rural is that, say, an office location needs 1,500 to 2,000 employees. You can't get that in a rural community. I mean, that would be the town and 3 towns over altogether. And that's assuming they're qualified. But when you do it virtually, you pick up people all over. And I think that's why you're seeing some of this, is that it's just the supply chain and the hiring all adjusting. Because now, somebody who maybe had to take a job at fast food can go somewhere else and be making a pretty decent pay.
Well, part of that is correct, because they're building the apartment complexes across from Whirlpool.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason is staffing. They have a facility now. When you join us, you can live right across the street, basically. And they're going to be new. It's going to be a nice draw for a while.
Yeah. Well, when we were drawing, like, say, management positions, part of what our company does is physical. We got large equipment that people need to run, and you got supervisors that need to manage those people and everything related to it. But the skills are fairly unique, so you would have to hire from out of town, and you offer somebody and they agree to take the job. They need some time to find a place to live. So we used to have a condo that we would put people up in. So I can see the need for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you said the Whirlpool one? What are they doing with that?
The apartment complex.
Yeah.
It's a couple of hundred people, I think.
Yeah. Now, is that like...
It's four stories.
Is that going to be where people would permanently stay, or?
It's apartments.
Okay, so it's not like short term or...
No. That's going to be big time.
Okay. Well, good. Okay, well, delayed enough, so let's go ahead and jump right on into the news. First article we have up is from sportsfishingmag.com. Almost 100,000 pounds of marine debris. Oops, I'm not even hitting the right buttons here. Here we go. Almost 100,000 pounds of marine debris and old nets removed from Hawaiian Islands, coral reef, and beaches. During a month-long collection effort in July, nearly 50 tons of marine trash and ghost nets were removed by northwest Hawaii by volunteers. According to the University of Hawaii News, tons of marine debris that was smothering coral reefs, fouling beaches, areas in the northern Hawaiian Islands has been removed. A group of volunteers did the work, including University of Hawaii Manoa students and alumni. Participating in debris removal were 16 divers from the nonprofit organization, and I'm not even trying that name, EMDP, Marine Debris Project. It's a Papahanamuka. Yeah, that's about as close you're going to get. Including debris was 86,000 pounds of ghost nets. And that's right, 86,000 pounds of ghost nets removed from a single reef. What does a train car weigh?
Doesn't weigh that much.
Yeah. Moved from a single reef. 9 of the 16 dive team members were either UH alumni or current students. Ghost nets are described as large, tangled masses of lost and discarded fishing nets. They can snag on shallow coral reefs, smothering and breaking living coral colonies. Nets are also a hazard to marine wildlife, including fish, sea turtles, seals, and birds. Seeing this kind of accumulation is such a single small area is indicative of the scale of the global marine debris issue, said Kevin O'Brien. They're talking about where they were removed.
Well, it's obvious they had a lot of good support and mechanisms to be able to drag that stuff up, which means they're going to have some kind of hoist.
Yeah, You'd have to pull it up. They're saying that nets can vary in size, but may weigh upwards of 2,000 pounds each. So that 18,000, we can assume was at least 9 nets, if not more. Look here at this photo.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that just looks like another creature that they're pulling up. And then you could see below the water line, the nets are still below that. They're on a couple, I don't know if that's one Zodiac or a couple of them together. You can't see. But yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, without a winch, you're not going to get that up.
No. No, you wouldn't.
Like seeing the support boat.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was going to cover it later, but I think maybe it's appropriate now. I'm going to what I had is a video of the week, which I really wasn't going to stream, but we have it in the show notes if you want to watch it. But this was the see right here. No, that's not it. I think I broke the internet. Here we go. This is what I was trying for. Maybe it's going to let me get there. Okay. So I'm going to mute this so it doesn't blast my ears. Boy, I'm really taxing this computer. It can't even load the rest of the page. There we go. The ocean cleanup. But this video, what they're talking about is, and I wish they had this years ago, because when you kept hearing about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, none of it made sense. They were trying to convince you that if you're in middle Iowa and you use a plastic bag from Walmart, that's in the garbage patch, and it just didn't make sense to me. So what they've done, and you'll see here in a minute, is that they've got, right here what they're doing, if you see, is they're laying out the debris as they're catching it. So and the ocean cleanup's the one that has they're doing the cleanup at the garbage patch where they got the big net that's pulling it in. And so they're doing an analysis, and they have scientists on staff who are analyzing this trash because they're trying to figure out where it's coming from. And to kind of do a spoiler for this is what they're showing is that most of the debris that is in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is plastics from fishing. Their traps, their guides, their nets, 80% was fishing related activities.
Whoa.
Right. And when they explained it, that made more sense than making everybody think that it's, Walmart bags and, bleach bottles. Not to say they're not in there, but they said by, looking through this is what it is. And so it's worth listening to the video. Let's see, how long's the video? The video's in about 9 minutes. I could have streamed it, but you can just listen to it. And then they were saying that the other stuff, by volume, there's a lot that's going in from the rivers, but that's not making it to the garbage patch, at least not right away. Now, one thing they did point out is I think some of their numbers might be altered by the tsunami. And they also did a breakout of what countries the trash was originating from. And when they point out when they say origination, it's from what manufactured the plastic. So as you can imagine, some countries were higher because they're manufacturing stuff that goes all over the world. So they were pointing out that it doesn't mean that country put it in, but that's where it was created, the material in the first place. But a very good article, a lot of science data. This lady here had a lot of good points. Interesting accent, too. I can't figure out her accent. But
So what's the bottom line?
Well, what they think is a lot of they say some of them are accidental. What they think it's just, you've got fishing nets that, and they said, those fishing nets, fishing debris, most of it was from trawling. So I don't know if there's an agenda they've got, like if they're going after attacking trawling. But that is the factory farming of fishing, is the trawl nets. So what they were kind of thinking is that some cases, it's just people going, it's no longer useful to me. So instead of dealing with it, they would just cut it loose and let it go. So they say there's some of that. There's some where, maybe a storm happened and the people have to get away. So they really tried to tap dance without blaming anybody. But, it's looking pretty clear that, the fishing industry wasn't the most positive from this.
Are they talking about the big ships?
Yes.
I'm just curious. In the old days, they used to put the stuff in a bag, toss it overboard, and why keep it on board? And you can dump it over the side.
Mm-hmm.
So is that where that's coming from? Is the bigger ships?
No, what they're referring
carry it back?
No, what they're referring to is like the trawling. The fishings where they do the trawl nets, where they drop down. It's almost like a plow with a net on it, and it gets pulled. So you have these big, long nets. And what they're kind of indicating is that, at some point, like anything that gets used a lot, it wears out. So, why would you haul that into land where you're a fishing operator? Were you going to haul it up in the dock and then load it in a big truck to have it to a landfill that's going to cost you, or you just cut it loose? In the U.S., you'd pay quite a bit for it.
Yeah.
And in other countries, which are probably doing more, I mean, they were kind of indicating some Asian countries, at least in the Pacific side, that were possible sources. But I think it's going to require some additional fishing regulations. Because my take on it was, if you're fishing, you need to be responsible for your gear and pull it out. I mean, there's going to have that occasional, where you've got something, it snagged a wreck. I mean, you're just not going to get it off. What are you going to do? Send somebody down 800 feet to go cut the net off the wreck?
Well, they're not talking 800 feet here, are they?
I don't know. How big do those...
Because if you're getting the surface stuff, you're not getting what's down below. Those nets are not floating, are they?
Well, they got floats on them. I mean, like right here, you're seeing there's fishing debris there. They had traps. There's another type of trap. There's float right there from a net. And some of it's nets. I don't know what the mechanics of it is, because you're right. Like a net that's on the bottom isn't going to come up. But yeah, it was a large amount. So worth the article. Take a look at.
Did they give you any suggestions of how to help rectify that?
I don't remember. I mean, I just briefly watched it and put it in my notes, but I don't believe they went to draw a conclusion, because they're still doing this as a kind of initial study. But it was the first time where it really had been addressed in anything saying what volume of the plastic was from what areas. Because a lot of times when they say something, you kind of like, oh, that just doesn't quite make sense. But this does, at least to me. So I'll take a look at it some more, and we'll do a follow-up. We got a series of articles coming up now. This one, we're starting with Diver Trek, divertrek.com. It said, diving the Eureka wreck, Kingston Lake, Ontario. This is June 2018. It says the Eureka is a 130-foot pre-Civil War double-masted schooner. The ship foundered in November 1st, 1883, due to a gale en route from Oswego, New York to Kingston with a load of coal. With any luck, the captain and 6 crew managed to escape without loss of life. Only a handful of people have seen the wreck since it sank 135 years ago, and these are the first ever published photographs of this beautiful wreck. Needless to say, this is one wreck I'll never forget dropping down on. So They say who this was? They don't have give a name. The wreck was accidentally discovered about a decade ago while surveying the lake bottom for possible windmill sites. Since then, has kept quiet for fears the wreck would be pilfered of artifacts, and also allowed time for local tour operators to decide how to introduce it to the wider diving community. As with most Great Lakes wrecks, there's a captivating story behind it. They said, see Eureka lost, Kingston News, December 6th, 1883. The wreck rests in about 120 feet of water, 105 feet to the deck, lies in an exposed area near Pigeon Island, making it difficult to plan for on most days because of wind uncertainties. Since the wreck is obviously not moored, it is a shot line dive, which requires first locating the wreck within sonar, followed by free diving ascent, using a shot line as a reference. Oh, and they have an update, and they said spring 2019, the wreck is now moored. So what do they mean, obviously not moored? Is it because it was new or the depth?
Part of it's the depth, the location, and around here, if we're going to buoy something like Havana, you've got a NOAA, not a NOAA, but a Coast Guard approved buoy.
Yep.
With a strobe on it that's on the nav charts. That's not free.
No, yeah.
It costs money to do that.
Yeah,
so
we got to do that, and you got to go through that Coast Guard process.
And 120 feet, not close to shore, that's out in the shipping lanes.
Yeah. Now you got the Shipping Carriers Association. I think they get a little input into some of these buoys. I said, unfortunately, this meant I only had 15 minutes of bottom time using 30% nitrox. The water was 43 degrees at depth. Thanks to Pat Cohen of Pat's Dive Charters in Kingston, this unforgettable opportunity, and for answering many questions. Oh, look at that.
Look at the infestation of quaggas on it.
Yeah.
It's pretty thick.
Great photos. There's a ship's wheel, which always makes a wreck popular. There's an anchor sitting there on the deck.
Photo opportunities right there.
Yep. And you're right. The quaggas are really thick on there. Yeah, there's some spots are not as encrusted as others. Visibility didn't look too bad.
No, very good.
Yep. So this had a couple brass. It says enlarge the image. Let me see, how am I going to enlarge the image? An image, a new tab maybe. It said there should be a couple brass lights in this. Are you seeing them?
Not, I'd have to blow it back up again.
Let me see if I can do that. Now it's got me curious. I feel blind. I'm not seeing it.
Well, the quaggas obscure. Years ago, you remember when you didn't have it, you could actually see a wreck. Now you got to see it through the zebras or quaggas.
Yep. But also you've got clear water.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I'd imagine this is an Erie wreck. That might have been a Braille dive in the late 70s, early 80s.
Past.
Yeah. When the lake catches on fire. And now the next article, this one's from the Scuba News, Piracy on Eureka Shipwreck. Is that same wreck?
Yeah.
I look at that.
The picture in the aft end looked different than the one before it.
Yeah, look at that. See, there's the...
Just perspective.
Yep.
You see the rudder and the back end.
Yeah, and a lot of that's camera angle, but then also, yeah, I guess it is the same amount. I thought there's less zebras now. But would that have been where that wouldn't have been the light? That would have been some sort of bilge pump going out there. Huh. It says, words cannot express how I feel, a mixture of sadness and anger, bordering on white-hot rage. Someone decided the porthole of the Eureka, also, as well as the seaman's chest that was in the cabin, are okay to grab and steal from the historic wreck. Going through divers who visited wreck, we confirmed so far that on Friday, July 2nd, 2022, the porthole was still there. On Tuesday, August 16th, 2022, we have a record of the port missing. This is frankly unacceptable. Again, I'm at a loss for words. The porthole was surgically removed. The seaman's chest was not something that could just be picked up and put into a side pocket. It needed a lift bag. At a depth of 110 feet, this was not done by a beginner who does not know better. It was all well-planned heist. Someone with skills and means, on purpose, deliberate. Shame on you. Your egocentric behavior just pissed off a lot of people. And is that Gulamine Corsi? Is that what he's showing there? Is that a porthole? Yeah, I was thinking.
Like a bilge pump. It looks like where you have your bilge pump exiting.
Right, that's what I thought, but they're calling it a porthole, and there it is, showing just a square notch. So somebody cut it out. They have a date on them, so one's 2021. Yeah. I mean, that was pretty deliberate, and that took some time. I mean, at that depth. Yeah, it says the Eureka, 130-foot double-masted schooner, sank in November 1883. Piracy is an act of robbery, criminal violence by ship or boat-borne attackers upon another ship or a coastal area. Typically, the goal is stealing cargo and other valuable goods. Anyone who, while in or out of Canada, steals a Canadian ship, steals without lawful authority, throws overboard, damages, destroys anything that is part of the cargo, supplies, or fittings of a Canadian ship, does or attempts to do mutinous acts on a Canadian ship, or counsels a person to do anything mentioned in paragraph A, B, or C. It's guilty of inductible offense and liable to imprisonment for terms not exceeding 14 years. It is highly unlikely that the persons responsible for this will come forward due to the fact that imprisonment, but the dive saying, scuba diving is very much a black and white world in terms of laws and rules one must abide by. Carlos lies. Huh. And let's see, we have a follow-up. This is also on the scubanews.com. Durrell Martin Charlesworth, and Kayla Martin, Durrell's daughter, discovered the portal missing while diving in Eureka on August 20th, 2022. They dove from Pat Cohen's boat, which has been guarding this wreck for nearly a decade before it was released to the public. Durrell went over the wreckage to see if anything else had been taken. He thought the seaman's chest footlocker had been removed from the wreck as well. When he went over his video again a few days later, he discovered the chest was still in the Eureka. Because it is in disrepair, the chest would be difficult to find, and most divers have no idea what it is. Because it would contain extremely valuable artifacts, Durrell does not want to publicize a picture in order to protect the chest. After the dive, he told president of the POW in Kingston to make this theft known to the public. Yeah, and there's that same press release. So it was just the portholes, but not the chest. See, there's a close-up of it. Mm-hmm. Now, what would somebody have used for that?
Crowbar.
You think that was a crowbar? They just went in with a crowbar and popped it out?
I don't see anything where it's cut. So if it was inserted, a crowbar, pop it out.
Yeah.
You can see the clean space around where the quaggers are gone.
Yep. Oh, I see what you're saying. So it was I was thinking the square meant it had been cut. That was the opening that they'd originally had. They'd have done a square opening. Yeah. And then that flange or gasket would have fit over it. And then you can kind of see 1883. Would that have been that could have been a type of nail there. You could see some fasteners. So okay, well, that's sad. Don't take it.
Unless there's millions of dollars on it, and then you can. You got to split it with the government.
Yeah. Well, like we all know, if you went down there and there was gold doubloons in a chest, there's no sense in leaving it. I mean, you can't condone taking it, but you've got to take it just because it's not it's not going to be there.
I can't condone taking it.
Diver stranded at sea 30 miles offshore records his final moments. A man who became stranded 30 miles out to sea captured what he thought were his final moments. He was out with a group of divers on the coast of southeast Queensland, Australia back in 2016. When he got in a bit of trouble, he rose out of the water. 30-year-old lost sight of the safety rope and moving away. Despite his best efforts to keep up with the trawler, it eventually moved out of sight and he was left alone for 6 hours. With the sun quickly setting, Jacob didn't believe the rescue team would be able to find him in the dark and decided to capture what he feared was his final moments. The video said, "So this is it. Sun goes down, they won't do nothing." It's a wrap for old Jakey. In a follow-up, the diver said he got into trouble when he surfaced and found that the rope had been pulled in. And to make matters worse, rather than coming back to him, the captain drove off. Jacob told ABC News at the time, "We took a while to anchor up, which left us several people in different states of readiness. I was one of the first to hop in the water. It was then 15 minutes before the last people hopped in which time we were fighting the current the whole way. Then we started to send down the line. One person was on top, so I went to swap hands and missed the rope, so I surfaced alongside to the boat. There was no tagline out the back for me to grab on, and by the time the skipper had thrown it out, I was already past it. It's a long time to spend by yourself, and it's a long swim back to shore. There's nothing to judge where you are. The waves look the same. There's no land to try and gauge yourself." And before we say anything, you notice he does have a safety sausage there. It's probably a little bit in the short side, but it's hard to tell with the angle.
That sounds like a cluster.
Yeah. Fortunately, a huge rescue operation.
If you're coming up and you had a tagline, the guy knows you missed it, how can you not go back and get the guy?
Right.
Or throw a buoy out. So it does not compute.
Right. I mean, because he popped up. I mean, this is fair. They're still putting people in the water when he missed the line. So it's not like a 40-minute dive and everybody was in the cabin drinking or something. They should have been still.
Well, and when we do it, if you've got any kind of current, we put a 100-foot trailing line out the back.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't understand how that happened. Because we normally put the line from the aft to the forward, hook it to the anchor line. So when you come up the anchor line, you got the line all the way back to the back. If the current's too bad and you missed it, you've got that trailing line with a buoy at the end of it. It gives you some support if you need it.
Yeah.
Then you can always pull yourself back.
Exactly.
Or at least hang on to it. And if the boat goes, you're going with it.
Right. Well, I don't know how big this boat was, but it seems a little crazy. It was fortunately a huge rescue operation got underway to track him down and bring him to the shore. About 5:30 p.m., a plane spotted him bobbing along in the water. Jacob said it was nice and warm in my wetsuit. I wasn't overly tired. I was floating. I just wanted to drink water and a cup of tea. The officer in charge of the rescue mission, Sergeant Rob Jorna, said Jacob's experience as a diver instructor made it possible for the team to find him. He knew what to do, his level-headedness at the time, and he didn't panic, and he did all the right things. He activated safety equipment, which alerted the the air observer, he said. So the safety sausage is what you got to get a lot of credit for getting him rescued.
Had a strobe.
Oh, did they say he had a strobe?
No, but that's the other aspect.
Yeah.
Carrying a strobe is a major item, especially at night.
Well, and in the dusk, because a lot of times in the dark, they just might call it off. You know, like, we'll wait till daylight because the spotter is going to have a hard time. But if you got a strobe, that makes it a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you can see a strobe for miles, especially from the air.
Now, I hope he wasn't an instructor on the boat that left him. I mean, I'm gonna be ticked anyway. There's no way I'm happy with that boat.
I still don't see how he got left behind. If somebody knew he missed the line.
Yeah, I can't see that they knew he missed the line, or just didn't pay attention. I mean, that's beyond criminal. If you had a diver in the water and you saw him pop up, and your tagline, you saw him reaching for the tagline, and he was just too far away. I'm going to guess they just weren't paying attention.
And how many hours after everybody came up did they start to look for him?
Well, they got him that same day.
6 hours?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he was out there, 6 or something hours?
Yeah.
So you got everybody on the boat within an hour. You know where you're at. You know where the current's flowing.
Yeah. So 5:30 is when they spotted him. So, yeah. So it was a morning, a late morning dive by the sounds of it. He was left alone for 6 hours. Yeah. Well, now you got GoPros to document it. At least he came back and he could share that himself. Wow. Now, this led with this. This is a lead story, isn't it? An astronomer thinks alien tech could be on the ocean floor. Not everyone agrees. 8 years ago, a meteor believed to have been 2 feet long entered Earth's atmosphere more than 100,000 miles an hour before exploding into tiny hot fragments and falling in the South Pacific Ocean. Some scientists believe it came from another star system, which would make it the first known interstellar object of its size to impact Earth. Now, Professor A.V. Loeb of the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics is planning an expedition to retrieve fragments of the meteor from the ocean floor. By analyzing the debris, he is hoping to determine the object's origins, even going so far as to make an extraordinary suggestion it could be a technological object created by aliens. Yet astronomers are wary of his claims, citing the lack of data on the object and insufficient evidence to support the bold conjecture about alien life. What is he looking for? The object that Loeb is searching for, designated CNEOS 2014-0108, was detected by 2014 by a network of satellites and to monitor the skies for potentially dangerous asteroids. Using data published by NASA, Loeb and Amir Siraj, then a Harvard University undergraduate studying astrophysics, first suggested the object came from outside our solar system in 2019. It moved very fast, roughly 40 kilometers per second, when it exploded in the lower atmosphere. And from that, we can infer it was moving much too fast to be bound to the sun. Loeb and Siraj submitted a paper making the case to a peer-reviewed astronomy journal. The paper was rejected because the data was incomplete. Some of the data relied on observations from classified missile detection systems, which making Loeb and Siraj's estimates the object velocity impossible for viewers to verify. In April, a memo published by the U.S. Space Command seemed to confirm that the object came from another star system. Now Loeb is launching a $1.5 million privately funded expedition to retrieve pieces of the meteor from the ocean floor. Based on data from the Defense Department, Loeb has focused the search area nearly 40 square miles. It's just like mowing the lawn. We are planning to use a sled with a magnet. That's less than a needle in a haystack.
Yeah,
that's like a metal shaving in a haystack.
Say the metal, the depth either.
Well, 40 square miles. Do they know yet? They said it's possible it'll be made of some alloy nature doesn't put together, and it would imply the object is technological. If you ask what my wish is, I intend indeed an artificial origin. And there was some component of the object that survived. There has many buttons on it. I would love to press them. Yeah, unless they're very extraterrestrial fancy buttons, I'm not picturing any buttons are going to survive.
I just can't imagine how he's going to search that many square miles, and he didn't even say how deep it was.
I guess it would depend on what your vessel is, but I'm picturing it. You know, if it's anywhere in the deep oceans, that's not going to get you there and back, let alone search. Yeah, the biggest problem is the data itself.
I figured we could take Jim's boat out there, throw a fuel barge behind us, and just search a lot. We could do it on 1.5 million.
1,490,000.
And we could do it even at today's gas prices.
Yeah, and the balance would go for lunch. Yeah, it says the data is also sanitized because some of the data comes from a network that includes classified military satellites. The available data is stripped of information that could reveal U.S. defense capabilities, such as error bars that indicate precision of measurements. Astronomer Robert Work studies near-Earth objects detected by the Pan-STARRS telescope. He said Space Command memo wasn't enough to draw a firm conclusion about the object's origins. I kind of have to take it with a grain of salt to understand why they won't release more information, but I think it could have been essential to actually come to a conclusion about the objects being interstellar. I think there's a case to be made that this could be interstellar origin, but I would add the caveat that none of the work so far as this is in peer-reviewed literature. The science has not really been vetted to the extent I would like to see it vetted. Finally, Loeb's critics point to difficulties of the expedition itself. This is what I would generously call a dubious plan. Science communicators vocally criticized Loeb's past claims about aliens. Siegel and Deutsch agree that there are too many variables, atmospheric winds and ocean currents, for example, to confidently pinpoint a search location. The search, well, they think it's floating. It's like a rock. When it hits the surface, it's going down. I guess it depends on what kind of trajectory they had. The search team would be looking for only a gram of material after that. It's been swirling around the ocean floor for years. Yeah, because it's just like high current down there. If you want to invest in renting a submarine going down the bottom of the ocean, well, goose chase, you can do it. If you want to take all your money and dump it in the middle of the ocean, you can do that too. Loeb is undeterred. To him, the expedition is a chance of making history. If Loeb finds pieces of the meteor or of its interstellar origins, it could be the first time humans get their hands on an interstellar object of its size. In response to his critics, Loeb describes the work as interstellar archaeology. My point is, if a cave dweller were to find a cell phone, the cave dweller would argue the cell phone is a rock of a type we've never seen before. I don't know. The only way to find out to press buttons on the cell phone and realize that it records your voice, records your image, be clear it's not a rock. No, because they're going to get the bill from Verizon. What are they talking about? Yeah, I can see this from both sides. It's going to have a hard time being peer-reviewed, because who wants to be the peer-reviewed journal that puts us in and is cited in all the wacky press releases that they're the source of the peer review? So, and having some firsthand knowledge of how the peer review process works, it's going to be a select group that peer review it. It's not going to be your typical publications just because of the topic. That's not, yeah. I know people are going to be a little mad, but yeah, there's going to be, more often than not, you're going to have somebody who's just going to object so much to it. But then it's kind of convenient that the data is unable to be verified. So yeah, that's what you could do. Look for data and know that you can't be disproven, so you can make a claim like this. What do you think? Think it's a cell phone?
Or to square my, well, without knowing how deep it is, what the bottom terrain looks like in that area. I understand what they're saying is they probably have a real good idea where it went in, but the government's not going to give you that information because they do not want to identify how good their telemetering conditions are or their locations.
Yeah.
But again, is that a good picture of the bottom terrain they're going to be looking at?
No, this is clip art. Getty Images.
And if it's been there for a couple of years and you've already got vegetation on it.
Oh, yeah. Well, if it's at this depth, it's almost going to be useless. Like you said, because it's grown over or currents could mess with it or it could just corrode away. I mean, your biggest hope is it went at some depth far enough down, but not too far.
Well, no, we don't know if it'll corrode because it might be that alien technology that doesn't corrode.
The unobtainium, Captain America's shield. Yeah, just it's that's where it came from.
Very rare.
Yeah.
Worth a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, that does it for Scuba in the News. So does anybody gotten any diving in? Is that even a possibility?
Well, some people were out. We did not have a Thankful Tuesday dive.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple of those storms come through that were very extreme for 20, 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people posted those, look like the Ghostbusters stuff, where all the black clouds come in and you go, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I did see your photo. That was...
I saw a couple of more after that other people had put out, and it's like, damn.
Well, I was home and I got the warning on my phone. I looked up, just where I'm sitting now. It was sunny, blue sky, and the wind was, moving a little bit, but not crazy. And within 5 minutes, it did happen what you described. It got dark and...
Well, I had gone into Mars. I left all my windows down. Nothing in the car worth stealing.
Yeah.
I walked out of the door and looked up and said, oh, shit. When I got to my car, it started misting. Got the windows back up, loaded up. Before I could get from there to the gas station, which is what, 100 yards?
Yeah.
It unzipped and it was coming out like a bat. I would have heard if she'd been out there.
Well, it didn't rain hard here.
It did at my house. Jeez,
no, well, and I was watching the satellite when it happened. I say it didn't rain hard. I did lose internet for like 20 minutes. I guess it was raining hard enough. But I could see, I thought we were going to miss it because by the time I looked, it was north and south. We were kind of in that little eye where it didn't look bad. But yeah, it did. Mm-hmm. I did lose power for quite a bit. But then it cleared up later. I had a robotics meeting and yeah. So just that little bit of time.
But that intensity of the rain screwed up the river.
Oh, I'm sure.
So we didn't do a river. But we do have a river dive on the 5th, so you still have an opportunity. High noon dive on Monday. I'll be at the boat launch. Merrimont.
Merrimont?
Yep. Deb's going to be there. She hadn't been grubbing this year, at least in our river. So she's coming down. We're going to go upstream to her favorite spot and see what that's like.
So you got any new divers who are planning on being there?
I really haven't seen anybody post anything. I'm going to be there. She's going to be there. Probably Sir Larry. He's going to probably show up.
Yeah, you don't want to hear...
The club, I was going to say the club picnic is scheduled for the 10th, but I have not heard any confirmation or who's going and who wants what. So it may be that we're not going to have that this year again.
Is that a Saturday?
Yes, it is the 10th.
Yeah, I've got robotics. It's a kickoff. So, yeah, I won't be able to make it, unfortunately.
So I haven't seen a list come out to say who's going and what do you want to eat.
Yeah, I need to.
So it's not looking promising.
Yep. And then this Monday, I'm going to be building field elements that we just took down tonight from our old build site. So slowly getting there.
That's supposed to be Labor Day. That doesn't mean you're supposed to work.
Labor.
That means it's the day you should go play.
Yeah, I know.
Get that suit wet.
Yeah,
You like Merrimont?
I do like Merrimont. It's a nice spot there. Yeah, I'll have to see. I've been doing some cleanup. I don't know if anybody can see here behind me. I still got to get rid of some of the stuff on the wall here that's left over from my son's stuff. But they're right back here was a mound that I had kind of cleaned up or that needed cleaned up, and I'm now cleaning it up. But need to paint it. I'm not quite sure the orange is my taste.
That's not too bad. It's a good background. Gives you a ruddy complexion.
Does it? Does it bring out my eyes?
Yeah.
Oh, the gray in my beard.
Well, now that you mentioned that, just a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. So, you have a dive safety story for this week? I don't think we did one last time.
Here. Well, actually, I got one. A hard breathing regulator results in an emergency ascent. Diver using rented equipment felt it was not getting enough air at depth, tried buddy breathing, but had little improvement. Dive master came to the rescue by sharing his octopus, and they did a controlled emergency ascent. The reported story was, while diving with a hard breathing rental regulator at 141 feet, I suddenly felt I could not get air. Went to my octopus, it was no better. Then I noticed my buddy's octopus. It was a little better, but still not good. Dive master noticed we were having some issues, came over, gave me his octopus, and he and I performed a control emergency ascent. Said the note, diver is 64 years old, 6'1", weighs 210. Diving experience was not reported. Their comments. Some dive shops may not maintain rental dive equipment very well. Some regulator models do not perform well in deep dives, even if they are perfectly maintained. Absolutely true. Remember, at a depth of 141 feet, the pressure is 5.2 atmospheres. It's 5.2 times greater than its surface than at sea level. For the same volume of breath, a regulator has to deliver 5 times more molecules of gas against proportionally increased resistance. If it's not designed properly and maintained, it will fail to deliver the necessary volume you require. The diver will feel the regulator is hard or just feels hungry, air hungry. In this case, it appears the regulator felt hard even before reaching 141 feet, but the diver proceeded deeper regardless. Not a very wise decision. Divers diving deep, such as this case, would be best well served to carry their own regulator they have tested before, service regular, and know it's good for the depth in which it's diving. The key word is, like we always preach, if you got air, you got time.
Yep.
My best regulator is on my bailout. I mean, the other ones are good too, but, and I've never had trouble with any of mine breathing at 140 feet. But I do like my Cyclones.
Yep. Yeah, a excellent regulator is important. You always want your best one as your backup. Yep.
Yeah, if he'd have been shallow, he'd have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
Again, when you start going down and you notice it's getting harder to breathe, why are you going down deeper? That makes no sense to me. I mean, I may be slow, but if I can't breathe, I'm thinking this is not going to get better as I go deeper. I'm just, oh, what can I say? Darren, you look like you're frozen there.
No, I'm here. Just listen, realizing how late it is. Karen is there in the chat room. She's talking, and I guess I really was I can't remember what the name was, Galoom or something. I said, and she says it's GEAM, GEEYAM. So, apologize to everybody's name I've slaughtered, at least today. And she said the storm.
So
go ahead.
I was gonna say, when I have those names, it's always Joe, Mary, Bob.
Yeah.
That's what I call them. Because half those times I can't pronounce the name either.
Yep.
So I pronounce what I can use.
Yep. She's saying that storm that came through took out the local cell tower, which my internet runs off of, and she had to go to finish work. She wasn't really happy about that. Yeah, that is a bad day. Especially if they don't get it back up soon.
Yeah.
So we got anything we need to plug? It's another month. It is September. September, October, November, December. How many shopping days till Christmas does that make?
Oh, 122.
So that's crazy. Oh, I don't know where it's all going.
Don't forget, ask Santa for a new wetsuit.
A new wetsuit? Okay. That's all. I'll have to do that.
Dry suit.
New dry suit. Dry suit would be good too. She said G like G and haw like diving. Oh. Why is yam haw? G and haw for yeah. Yeah, G and haw is like what you do, like she says, for a driving team. Draft horses, it's G and haw. And yam with a long, G and yam. G yam. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a tough thing with names, is you kind of have to understand what the context is, what nationality it is. Did the mom or dad have a sense of humor? So.
Well, I'm good with the names Dick and Jane. Works for me.
Yeah. You can't say that too often. You're going to get canceled. Biased. So, let's see. I think we're to that time of the show, don't you think?
Yes, I do.
Let's see. That one I've done before. So here's a quick warm up. A man and a boy sit on a couch together. The boy says to the man, "Yeah, well, I didn't believe in reincarnation when I was your age either."
I got it, but
yeah, okay. A climber fell off a cliff, and as he tumbled down, he caught a hold of a small branch. "Help! Is there anybody up there?" he shouted. A majestic voice boomed to the gorge. "I will help you, my son, but first you must have faith in me." "Yes, yes, I trust you," cried the man. "Let go of the branch," boomed the voice. There was a long pause, and the man shouted up, "Is there anybody else up there?"
Well, he blew his chance.
Yeah. An MIT linguistics professor was lecturing in his class the other day. In English, he said, a double negative forms a positive. However, in some language, such as Russian, a double negative remains a negative. But there isn't a single language, not one, in which a double positive can express a negative. A voice from the back of the room said, "Yeah, right."
That was a good one.
Yeah. So on that note, go out there and get wet.
and stay safe. Don't forget, plan your dive, dive your plan, and then discuss it when you get up and say, what did you learn?
Yep. Lessons learned. Yep. Karen said, that's it. It's French. And I'm not even going to pretend to say what the rest of it is.